The Tony Award-winning regional theater Arena Stage, located in Washington, D.C., has been producing first-class work since it opened its doors back in 1950. On Stage's Frank DeLella recently traveled down south to check in with the folks behind Arena Stage, and he joins us now with an overview of his trip. Frank.
Hey, Roma. From the Pulitzer Prize-winning shows like The Great White Hope and Next to Normal to the Beethoven-inspired 33 Variations and others, Arena Stage has been producing, cultivating, and sending theater to Broadway for decades. I recently took a trip down to Washington, D.C. to check out two familiar works currently on the boards at Arena Stage at the Mead Center for American Theater. Let's take a look. With a mission that promotes the development and production of American theater, old and new, the not-for-profit Arena Stage has been doing just that for more than 6 decades. The newly refurbished and rebuilt theater complex, located in the southwest quadrant of D.C., boasts 3 stages, costume and scene shops, rehearsal space, and more. Molly Smith is the Arena's artistic director.
I always think of Arena Stage as having broad shoulders, which is really the potential to produce or present the most remarkable work coming from American artists. And that really encompasses a lot if you really stop and think about it. Mm-hmm. Because as far as American writers, the musical is our form. Mm-hmm. We created it. Nobody does it better than us.
Speaking of musicals, Smith is currently represented on the Fichandler Stage with her reimagined production of The Music Man.
We got trouble! Oh, we got trouble! Right here, River City! Right here, River City!
Meredith Wilson's classic tale about con artist turned good Harold Hill is being performed in the Rounded Arena. Broadway vet Burke Moses plays the title character, opposite leading lady Kate Baldwin.
Well, the Arena Stage is a bit like theatrical heaven, what Molly Smith has done here with the new facility. The facility itself is just glorious, and it's a very positive environment. How wonderful it is to play the Music Man someplace like this.
Working in the Round is actually more natural than working on a proscenium, because you don't have to worry about where the audience is, and you can turn or react in the way that you would in real life, because you're never turning your back, or in fact you're always turning your back to somebody. In a way, too, it's sort of more sculptural, and it feels more kinetic and more alive in this kind of space.
We have Music Man, which is one of the great musicals that America has produced. And this is our opportunity to really be a feeder into the community. So you'll see little girls in twirly dresses. You'll see little boys in bow ties. There's really a sense of building an audience, because I believe that that's another piece that's really important, is how do we build the audiences of tomorrow? Well, I think it often happens through musicals.
And from a fictional musical comedy to a brutal drama that reflects a dark time in our country's history, the tour of Larry Kramer's 2011 Tony Award-winning revival, The Normal Heart, makes its first stop at Arena.
I am beginning to think that you and your straight world are our enemy.
Kramer's semi-autobiographical work about the early years of the AIDS epidemic features direction by George C. Wolfe and an ensemble led by Patrick Breen and Luke Macfarlane, who play lovers Ned and Felix. Breen and Macfarlane returned to the show after playing supporting characters in the Broadway run last year.
I feel like it is my duty to honor the events of the play as honestly as possible. And I don't know that I'll be able to do it for however many performances we have, but when I'm there and I'm performing with everybody and everybody's kicking it and we're all just present and Larry's play sort of sweeps you up.
Well, I think at first, we were all very nervous because the production in New York was, so important to so many people, and it was so effective and just really kind of perfect. And it's always scared to come back to something that was so successful the first time around. But that being said, George has really let us sort of find our own way in and make it true for ourselves. So we're not just filling in the empty spaces were the actors who played our parts originally.
And just like the way this production resonated with New Yorkers on Broadway, Macfarlane adds DC theatergoers are reacting in a similar fashion.
People want to be angry about what happened, and this play gives them an opportunity and shows them and gives them the privilege and right to be angry and sad.
The chilling reality of the Normal Heart is ever so present here at the arena stage. Displayed around the perimeter of the Krieger Theater, patches from the AIDS memorial quilt. In addition, like the award-winning New York revival, at play's end, thousands of names appear in light throughout the theater, honoring those who have fallen victim to the deadly virus. Normal Heart Ensemble members Christopher Hanke and Michael Barres reflect.
I never saw the AIDS quilt. I think that it's been up at the Smithsonian, but somehow I didn't get to see that before when I've been in DC. But I was just walking up to come and do this interview, and I saw them for the first time, and tears welled up in my eyes just to see what resonated for me was the joy of these lives. And I think that's what a lot of the families wanted to capture in making these quilts for their loved ones that they've lost. It's just like, this person lived, this person was vibrant, this person was, a contributing energy to our society, and let's celebrate who that person was.
There was a particular friend of mine that I wanted very much to make sure that his name was on the wall, and at the end of the show. And in tech, we were standing and we were talking about adding names to the wall, and I had said, I really want to make sure his name is there, Keith Keane, who I did my very first Broadway show with. And I turned around, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of names on this wall, and it was the first name I saw. It was like exactly in my eye line, and I got very emotional, of course, but I'm also really grateful, and I feel like he's literally in this show every night that we do this show.
The Normal Heart will wrap up its run during the International AIDS Conference, which will be held in DC at the end of July. And the Music Man is set to close on July 22nd. As for the future of Arena Stage, Molly Smith says she hopes to continue to present and produce shows like The Normal Heart and The Music Man, along with new plays, work that reflects the fabric of our country and its people.
I'm from Alaska, and totem poles would be with the Clinkets and the Quacky Oodles. They're story poles. They're story poles that are about families. And I think theater is about the stories we tell about our families.
And for more information on Arena Stage, you can log on to arenastage.com. Roma.
Wow, Frank, it sounds like they have a full slate of shows. What's coming up next?
Well, they have, Molly Smith is doing her production of My Fair Lady, which we covered last year at the Shaw Festival. That's coming down to Arena Stage. And then they're also doing some familiar works that we know of up here, other desert cities, and the mountaintops. So some good stuff.
Oh, wow, that's something. That's worth a trip.
Yeah.
And Normal Heart, what happens to that?
Normal Heart is going to ACT in San Francisco. It's going to open there in September. So there will be life for the Normal Heart. That heartbeat is still beating on.
Oh, thank God.